Hey, Divine Leader, and welcome to this episode. Energetics matter, why mindset and strategy only get you so far. So, I thought I'd kick us off here with a quote from Abraham Hicks, which is, "You cannot have a happy ending to an unhappy journey." And that kind of brings together the essence of our topic in this episode, which is all about energetics. And you've probably heard of mindset coaches, and believe me, I've got one and I love her and really know that there's a lot that the field of mindset has really created. And at one time, it was very innovative. And yet today, I want to talk about the innovative field of energetics. So, have you ever heard of an energetics coach? And I don't mean an energy worker or the law of attraction, although again, I'm an energy worker. I have been for years, and the law of attraction is a beautiful expansion in consciousness. I mean, someone who really holds space for you to embody all of your energy at the highest octave. I really hadn't heard of an energetics coach before until I was recently talking with Toth and the guides, and they were sharing, like, this is exactly what we do with our codes and our activations, and really that it's been what I've been up to for a long time. So sometimes as we're leading the wave of consciousness and on the leading wave of consciousness and leading the evolution in consciousness, there are things that we be and do that we don't even realize what we're doing. Like, we don't know what to call them because it's not like we learned about them in looking around at what others are doing. And so I had this real aha moment that that's, again, what we've been up to for years. And one of the reasons that I love hanging out with the guides is that there really is this invitation to be tapping into our full energetics. And, the results that I've had personally and that I see in our clients when the energetics are attuned to higher and higher states of consciousness have really been incredible. And this was especially noticeable to me in the last year or so, as I was starting to see, especially spiritual entrepreneurs, conscious entrepreneurs that had been in their business for a while, that were doing great work, that had amazing business coaches. They'd worked on their mindset, and yet there was some kind of plateau. And then when they would join the Divine Light Activation Program or the Magdalene Codes, which really are both about activating your divine energetics in your system so that you're occupying more than just your mind, your body, and your emotions, so that you go from, like, primarily being oriented in 3 dimensions of you to having many, 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 many more octaves of your energetics working. And then it's like you're enveloped in this field of higher consciousness. And so back to what I was seeing with our clients, that it was almost like the energetics was the missing piece, that they had the strategy in place, they had done the mindset, and yet there was some plateau. So I was thinking about one of our clients, Susan, for example. And when she started working with us, all that she had put in place on the 3D level started to come to fruition. That she launched a program that she'd been, like, had in the hopper, and yet didn't really have necessarily all the energetics turned on to move forward with it. And then she did, and all kinds of cool things happened. And she ended up, like, 2.5xing her money, what she'd done in the previous years. Or I was also thinking about our client, Lisa, who had done the Magdalene Codes program. And she, again, has been a practitioner for a while. and was doing also really, really good work. And yet she noticed this pattern. She works a lot with groups, that she would, every time she would open up the invitation for a group to come in, that she would meet like 70 or 80% of her numbers, and she'd have this space, and there was something in her energetics that it was like that was her, where her bandwidth to receive more kind of tapped out, and then she would stop. And then when she did the Magdalene codes, what she noticed was that, like, on the day that her program started, she had already more, like 90% of her group full, and then she just didn't stop. And then within that next 24 hours, or it might have been 48 hours, she not only sold out all her spots, but she actually exceeded what she was originally intending. And that was really all based on the energetics shifting in her system to be more aligned with what it is that she was creating. And whatever it is that we desire is moving at a higher vibration than the lack of it. And so it's also a question of vibrational proximity, that we're in the same energetic vibrational proximity, and it's a vibrational match to where it is that we are, which goes back to the Abraham Hicks quote of, like, we can't create a happy ending from an unhappy journey. And so and this is what I see a lot, and I've experienced myself as well, is that we're high performing coaches, healers, practitioners, and then trying to create an even greater contribution and make an even bigger difference. And yet, like with my third client example here, Ellen, that there was this creation that was trying to happen from a place of depletion in her case. And when she started working with us, there was this recognition that she was really drained and feeling fatigued, and had clients that she was working with that really, like, it was no longer a vibrational match for where she was. So in her example, she's more of a seasoned entrepreneur and had been at it for a while, just like me, where after 25 years, it's like things evolve, things change. And yet she was working with a level of client that was at an earlier stage in their journey than was really her sweet spot of what she was offering and the tools that she had. And so that mismatch was really draining her energy. And that's also an interesting thing. I just want to slow that down, because the guides talk a lot about that sometimes we're trying to offer our gifts or our talents or our support to others at an earlier stage, or in a dimension where those gifts don't work as well. So that's also about getting into the sweet spot. And so in Ellen's case, and she had done the Divine Light activations a few years back, and then circled back to the Magdalene codes. And when she did the Magdalene codes, she had this recognition that it was time to increase her investment level to work with her, and to have the energetics to do that. There's an energy behind it being aligned to raise your prices. And she did that. And then what she noticed is that she started calling in another level, like her next level client that she loved working with, and they loved her work. And then she also sold out her year-long healing practitioner training from really shifting her energetics. And so I know that this innovative field of the new paradigm of energetics, it sounds like something we've been talking about for a while. And yet at the same time, I want to make a distinction here, because there's being aligned, there's being in a place of synergy, in a place of coherence, and that has to do with energy. And yet what I'm also talking about is when our energetics are flowing also beyond what our incarnated experience is tapped into. So the best example is that when we're creating from our thoughts and our actions, and then also our emotions, those are 3 dimensions. And when those 3 dimensions are used to try to have that domino effect, to make an even bigger difference, or to be at that next level of whatever it is that you're choosing to be and to do and to have, that there can be that place or that space where you start to operate from the higher self, from your energy field, from your multidimensional divine self. And that is really an art, and it's a science. And it requires, or at least the way that the guides and I have been offering that, is a certain type of energy transmission where that which is dormant in your system becomes activated and turned on, and some of what was active gets turned off. And so it's really like the energetics as well of, this is being recorded in 2022, the energetics of who it is that we are as leaders in 2022 and the new paradigm. It's really a whole different ball game than how it was even in 2012. And so to really be accessing the energetics behind what matters, and what matters in terms of what matters to you, what brings you that deep sense of meaningful life, because I'm always a champion and a proponent for us leading our best lives, our most meaningful lives, and also being really well nourished and prosperous in the process. And so as we're really going just another spiral into the awareness of energetics, I just invite you to kind of contemplate that there is an energy, how do I want to say this? An energy signature to everything. So, for example, there's an energy signature behind a 100K payday. There's an energy template or signature behind being connected to source every day. There's an energetic to really being a vibrational match for what you desire to come into form. And so without the energetics turned on, and there's also an energetic to what you're doing in the 3D, like the strategy and the mindset and the actions that you take, that if you take an action that has the potential to be an aligned action, and yet you take it from a place of depletion, or from a place of I'm doing this action to get that, or from a place of the hard work, kind of struggle, hustle train energy, then that beautiful action, that beautiful aligned action, it has an energy signature of stress. It has an energy signature of lack. It has an energetic signature or overlay of some kind of an old paradigm way of being. And so really energetics is key. And part of that process is turning on, again, more of your energy beyond your body, your mind, and your emotions in the 3D plane. That way you're connected to a much vaster energetic landscape, and you're more resourced and able to transmit and receive and have at a higher level. So as there's this really the awareness even more and more and more and more and more and more and more that everything is energy, and this idea that, as I'm very immersed in like the business transformational coaching space, as well as the higher consciousness, divine awakening, 5D new paradigm leadership space as well, that it's like if I were to ask 100 conscious leaders what really creates and makes a difference in what matters, what materializes, what actualizes, and what really is created, then most would say that it is very much related as well to energy, to frequency, to vibration. Like, it's not a secret. And yet, when also, if I were to ask those same 100 coaches that are already doing well, or healers that are already sharing their purpose, and those as well that may be experts in their field, because we often work with clients that may be teaching at a university or have another career, like being a physician or a lawyer or a teacher, that are really positioned to be leading in mainstream and bringing more of their higher consciousness to their areas of expertise, as well as those that are here to lead the evolution in consciousness from a being state that may be retired or may be really raising consciousness through the vibration that they're being. And yet, if I was to ask those same individuals, like, who know that 90% of what really makes a difference is the energetics, what is the percentage that actually they're paying attention to that, or they're doing something about that, or they're being something about that? And what I've seen for myself, and what used to work in the old paradigm, and what I see in a lot of our clients that work with us, is that they're very much leaning heavily on the strategy and the mindset and taking actions without really paying attention to the energetics. And it takes all of it. Like, without the mindset and the strategy and setting up the structures in your business to really hold the larger vision of what it is that you're here to do, without those things in place, then things do go a lot more slowly. Yet, if I circle back to the examples of our clients who had those things in place, and they were at that point where adding more action and adding more strategy, or tweaking whatever it is that they were doing, or doing a whole bunch more of it, wasn't what was that, like the domino that had things fall into place. It's an energetic thing. And there's a few reasons why that even though there's an awareness, like this isn't a new topic, although I do feel like there's a nuance here of it being spoken about in a different way in terms of the energetics of activating your system, turning on your codes, what it is that we offer at Divine Transmissions. Even though it's not a new conversation, there has been like okay, who do I go for that? Like, how do I address that? It's not so obvious of where it is that you can go to receive that support beyond what it is that you're already doing, because that's a really important aspect as well of what we're up to, is partnering from that place of equality, partnering from that place of you have everything within you already, partnering from that place of you are powerful, you are extraordinary, and divinely matching you in that. And that's maybe another way to talk about the nuance of the energetics. It's different than energy work. Like I love energy work. I do energy work in a different form these days. And at the same time, it often was based on, okay, something's broken, and then applying energy to fix that. Where what I'm talking about it in this new paradigm of energetics and being an energetics coach is like there's a whole bunch that's already going super well in your system, that you're already rocking, that you already have going on, that may be in that budding phase, or it just hasn't had time on the mic because the other things were playing at a louder level. And so that's also what I love about connecting with the guides and being in that space where there's an invitation to really be being our full vibrational selves, really being in the space of our full energetics. And results are created from those old ways. It's not that they don't work, because if they didn't work at all, in my experience, they're working less and less. What I mean by the old ways, outdated ways, is really overworking, being stressed out, trying to figure things out intellectually alone, that those things are working less and less. And I don't know about you, and yet I really have been like, I'm someone who has been on my path for a long time, and a lot of those that I have a divine appointment with as well to connect with, like we've been on our path in one way or another for a long time. And so I've personally had and have a lot of coaches, a lot of practitioners, a lot of healers. I've read like a lot of things, done a lot of programs, not to mention like all the work that I've transmitted over the years. And I'm just not a yes any longer for hiring someone whose energetics are not bang on. Like it's something that I just can't ignore anymore. And that's something that you, when you're exploring, and I wasn't expecting to talk about this, was just flowing, like when you're exploring who it is that you want to mentor with, have as your mentor, who it is that you want to partner with, who it is that you want to have to walk this path with you, to guide, to co-create, that yes, it's important to look at things like if their program is about creating six figures, are they at six figures? Like that's an important question to ask. Have they done it themselves? Have they helped others do it? Like those kinds of things. And yet really asking about the energetics and tuning into that. Like, are they stressed out? Are they having sleepless nights? Not that you necessarily are going to ask them about that. Like, are they having panic attacks? Like, are they having an unhappy journey and trying to create an unhappy ending? And again, for those of you who know me, like, this is on my leading edge, because I very much am about, like, we all have a place at the table, and I'm very diplomatic, and I know that it takes all of us to lead the evolution in consciousness, and that it's an illusion lie that I've seen so many practitioners and healers and leaders stop themselves over the years of, like, oh, I need to be perfect before I can offer this. And I don't mean that at all. And what I'm talking about is really this call and this invitation to have an even greater awareness of the energetics of the people, places, and opportunities that we say yes to. And from that place and space, there's a recognition of, well, when the energetics are really aligned, and this is where it matters less and less and less. Like, one of the things that Toth and the council talk a lot about in the Ascended Master Academy program is this capacity to scribe on demand, anytime, anywhere, anything, no matter how you feel. And so it's natural, as we are also holding a higher vibration, higher energetic of wholeness, that slower vibrations come up to the surface. I have slower vibrations come up to the surface. I'm absolutely not perfect, and I don't want to be perfect. And also, I do feel like that it's just par for the course. And yet, whatever those slower vibrations are, they're registering on a much lower threshold, because of the embodying and the turning on of more and more and more and more and more dimensions. And so that analogy as well that the Council of Light often share is that if you have fear, and your energetics are really in a state of love, that the fear, it's like dropping a few drops of food coloring into a thimble of water, then that fear really is loud and takes a lot of attention. Whereas if you have that same, like, few drops of food coloring of fear that you drop into the ocean, then it just disperses and goes back into the wholeness. So as we're wrapping up here, this episode on energetics matter, and really this new paradigm of energetics, and a little bit deeper dive into why mindset and strategy only get you so far, and that there's a whole bunch of untapped potential that's available when you make a few changes in your energetics. And so happy and grateful that you have tuned in here for this episode of the Seven Figure Spiritual Leader, and inviting you to really be aware of what is going to create that domino effect for you, for all that you have put into place already to come to full fruition.